So before the ass heard the camel's voice, and you have had no loss, give us at least the gods that remain, the two gods that didn't break. Give us the gods that remain, and we will give you a suitable price. Damn. So they're going to pay him big dollars. I considered it in my heart. So now Abraham considers this in his heart. And they paid both for the smashed gods, for the gods that broke, and the gods which remained preserved. For I had been grieving in my heart this is Abraham. He said, I've been grieving in my heart how I would bring payment to my father. I threw three broken gods into the water of the river Gur, which was in this place, and they sank into the depths of the river Gur and were no more. So he threw the gods into the river, and they were no more. They disappeared. And I was, chapter 3, and I was still, by the way, I smoked cigarettes for almost 30 years of my life. It's been about 5 years now since I've had a cigarette. But I've done so much damage to my body when I was younger. I used to do drugs heavy. I used to drink heavy. And I smoked cigarettes heavy. I did all of those things heavy. I did a lot of damage to my lungs. So in a lot of cases, people, I'm making breathing gestures. In some cases, it may even seem as if I'm weeping or I'm crying. That's far from the truth. Okay? Not saying that. I'm not trying to say that, for people that come on social media and weep and cry. I'm not saying anything derogatory about you all. But I'm just telling the truth. It's just not something that I'm doing. I'm not weeping, or I'm not crying, or I'm not dying, or anything like that. It's just that it fluctuates. Sometimes I'm in the best of it, and sometimes I'm in the worst of it. So if it's something that you need to understand, if I'm in my vehicle, my voice echoes off of the vehicle. If I'm not in my vehicle, my voice is that way with everyone's voice. The voice doesn't have anything to echo off of. So sometimes if I'm not in my vehicle and I'm raising my voice and I might gasp, but that's what's happening. It's not anything else. Okay. I'm not sad or anything like that. Okay. Someone asked me that in my DM. I appreciate you, but that's not the case. Now, I'm not trying to talk down on that for many people. You've all never seen me cry, not yet. And I don't have anything against anyone that does that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make you any less than a man. It doesn't make you any less than a woman. But in any event, now, to be honest with you all, I remember in 2008, that wasn't the last time I cried. I had a death of a family member not too long ago, my grandfather. I shedded tears at my grandfather's funeral, but I cried in public in 2008 because 2008 was a horrible financial year for me. 2008 was probably a horrible financial year for a lot of people. And I remember was I in Best Buy, or was I in, I think it was in Sears or Best Buy. It was one of those places. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I swiped my card, and my family had needed something, and I simply didn't have the money. And I swiped I thought I had the money, but we had been going through some tough financial difficulties. And I thought I had this all sewed up. I swiped my card, but we needed a refrigerator. And my card declined. And I just, with everything else that was going on and everything like that, because I wasn't able to provide for my family, I broke down and I cried. It wasn't anything major, but I had some tears, and I was supported by my family and this, that, and the third. But for the most part, that's the last time I've cried in public. And in 2016, January 29th, the death of my grandfather, That was it. That's the last time I cried. Now, I'm not trying to say, oh, he's a tough guy if you don't cry. But I just don't want you all to believe something that's not true. If it's not true, it's not true. If it's true, it's true. So don't confuse sometimes when if I'm having a breathing issue while I'm talking, it may seem like I'm weeping or I'm hiccuping or something like that. I just don't want you to get those things confused. Shalom. So now it's going to say here, as I was still walking on the road, chapter 3, Apocalypse of Abraham. As I was still walking on the road, my heart was disturbed in my mind, distracted. I said in my heart, what is the inequality of activity which my father is doing? So there's another scroll that actually worded that a lot better. But basically, he says, what is this translation says, what is the inequality of activity? In other words, Abraham is thinking to himself, this is wicked. My father is wicked. What is this wickedness that he is doing? This is madness. He's selling false gods. He's worshiping false gods. Now, I want you all to pay very, very close attention. I'm going to keep reading. Now, listen, because many of you think that you're so intelligent. Now, if you're in religion, you cannot, it's just like in the truth. The truth is not necessarily religion. It's a way of life. Yes, a religion is a way of life, but I don't want you to confuse the way of the Bible with religion. That's what many of you are doing. But now listen, because many of you think you're so intelligent. Some of you say, well, hey, listen, we don't bow to the rock. We just bow to Allah. Or listen, we don't bow to the cross, but we bow to Christ. Okay? Or we bow to Jesus, right? The false image and the false name. Hey, we bow to Buddha, or, we ourselves think that we're gods, that we ourselves control our own destiny without the Most High having anything to do with it. Now, you do control your own destiny to an extent, okay? To an extent, but you have to be careful about being arrogant, okay? But that's a different lesson. That's a different message, okay? So, now, this is for all of you that think you're so intelligent that you think you've got it all sewed up in your heart, right? In your mind. So, in other words, he says, what the hell is my father doing here? Pay attention. Is it not he rather who is the God of his gods? Listen, Abraham is really just using his common sense. He said, is it not he rather who is the God of his gods, because they come into being? In other words, they are being created from his sculpting, his planning. He's the architect, and his skill. Many of you are bowing to something that another man created. They ought to honor my father because they are his work. They are his work. What is this food of my father in his works? Behold, Marumath, one of the gods that his father created, fell and could not stand up in his sanctuary. Nor could I myself lift him until my father came and we raised him up. And even so, we were not able to do it, and his head fell off of him, and he put it on another stone, another god, which he made without a head. And the other 5 gods, which got smashed in falling from the ass, who could not save themselves and enjoy the ass because it smashed them, nor did their shards come up out of them. Shards come up out of the river. And I said to my heart, I said to my mind, no, the spirit, that's why you have to have the Ruach. Now, heart and mind are interchangeable, but not right here. Because you have mind and soul. Mind and soul. Psyche, they're both the psyche. But Abraham is going to now speak to his soul. He's going to say, because he's pondering, and he's going to say to his heart, if it is so, how then can my father's God Merumath, which has the head of another stone, and which is made from another stone, save a man? Or heart a man's prayer, or give him a gift. In other words, or hear a man's prayer, or give him a gift. Chapter 4. See, that's the reason why religion, it had to make something for you niggas to see. Or for all people to see. Why? Because you people, not just niggas, white people, Chinese people, Arab people, all you people on the face of the planet, you don't believe what you don't see. So one of the religions had to trick you because you can't see the so-called God. It had to make something for you to bow to. Many of you say, well, we won't bow to that. You can't half step. You can't have one foot out and one foot in. You have to make up your mind. To be lukewarm, to straddle the fence, to be a Moni in the middle is more dangerous than being cold and being an atheist and being a non-believer. The only place from non-believing and being reprobate is up. But when you're straddling the fence, you become unstable. And a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. That's dangerous. You don't believe me? Christ is going to show you all just how dangerous that is. And thinking this, I came to my father's house, and I watered the ass, and he gave the donkey some water, and then gave him some hay to eat. And I took out the silver and placed it in the hand of my father. The silver is the money that the Syrians gave him for the false gods, and gave it to my father Terah in his hand. And when he saw it, he was glad, and he said, "You are blessed, Abraham, by the God of my gods." Interesting. Now, why is that interesting? Terah, Abraham's father, is going to say something extremely interesting. He's going to say, "You are blessed, Abraham, by the God of my gods, since you have brought me the price for the gods, so that my labor was not in vain. In answering, I said to him, Listen, Father Terah. But before Abraham lay his father out. Now, remember, the title of this message is titled, Our Parents. Right now, it may seem like I'm just talking about false gods, but I want you all to pay very close attention. So his father is going to tell him that you are blessed by the God of my gods. So now, why is this dangerous? Why is Terah in a very dangerous place? There's a scripture that says, I would rather have you hot nor cold. I would rather have you hot or cold. But because you are lukewarm, because you're straddling the fence, I will spit you out of my mouth, meaning to destroy you. Now, in a lot of cases, when Christ destroys people by fire, it's because that's where they're headed. Not all the time, but it's an example. And I want y'all to pay attention. Abraham then says, now he's too frustrated. Honor thy mother and father. Honor thy mother and father. But Abraham, he can't take it anymore. Let me make a note. Okay. Abraham says now he's going to lay his father out. Okay. Honor thy mother and father. He did it respectfully. He says, listen, Father Terah. She's got an exclamation mark behind it. Listen, Terah. The gods are blessing in you because you are a God for them. Because you made them. So, where is the common sense for all of the people that bow to stones and bow to rocks? See, it doesn't always have to be scriptural based. For the Most High Christ has given us all wisdom, and he's given us all common sense. If something sounds wrong, seems wrong, and can't prove itself, it is wrong. And it's untrustworthy. So he's going to bring some light to his father, and he's going to say, because you made them, for their blessing is their perdition, and their power is vain. They did not help themselves. How then can they help you or bless me? I was good for you in this transaction, for through my good sense, through my common sense, I brought you the silver for the smashed gods. And when he heard my speech, he became furious. Now, this is when his father becomes irate. He becomes angry. Have I become your enemy because I'm telling you the truth? Because I had spoken harsh words against his gods? But having pondered my father's anger, I went out, and afterward, when I had gone out, he called me, saying, Abraham. And I said, Here I am, honor thy mother and father. And he said, Up, gather wood chips, For I was making gods from fur before you came, and prepare with them food for my midday meal. And it came to pass, when I was choosing the wood chips, I found among them a small god, which would fit in my left hand. So his father had already made another small god that Abraham found out there, small enough to fit in his left hand. And on its forehead was written, God Beresat. And it came to pass, when I put the chips on the fire in order to prepare the food for my father, and going out to inquire about the food, I put Beresat near the enkindling. So he put the god near the little god that he found, that his father made, that he could fit in his left hand. Now Abraham's going to be sarcastic, right? So he put the god near the fire, saying to the god threateningly, in other words, listen here, God Beresat, watch the fire. Watch that the fire does not go out before I come back. If the fire goes out, blow on it so it flares up. I went out and I made my counsel. When I returned, I found Beresat fallen onto his back, his feet enveloped by the fire and burning fiercely. And it came to pass, when I saw it, I laughed and said to myself, Beresat, truly you know how to light a fire and cook food. And it came to pass, while saying this in my laughter, I saw that he burned up slowly from the fire and became. So Abraham looked and he laughed. And he saw that the little Beresat that he could fit in his hands had burned up from the fire and had become ashes. I carried the food to my father to eat. I gave him wine and milk, and he drank, and he enjoyed himself. And he blessed Meremoth. He blessed. His father ate, enjoyed the food, enjoyed the wine and the milk. And then he goes and blesses Meremoth, his god, and said to him, and I said to him, Father Terah, do not bless Meremoth, your god. Do not praise him. Praise rather Beresat, your god, because as though loving you, he threw himself into the fire. Abraham's being sarcastic. So he said, Meremoth, don't bless Meremoth, bless Beresat out there that could fit in my hand. He threw himself into the fire in order to cook your food. And he said to me, then where is he now? And I said, he has burned in the fire, in the fierceness of the fire, and become dust. And he said, great is the power of Beresat. Wow. I will make another today, and tomorrow he will prepare my food. Now, I need you all to pay very close attention, because I'm going to relocate after this, because I need more light. Okay. So then he's going to say, so when Abraham heard words like this, so in other words, his father says, bless Beresat then. He fell in the fire and I was able to cook my food. Well, bless Beresat. So Abraham probably says, now, here's the punchline. Many of you say to yourselves in your heart, within your mind, I'm more intelligent than Abraham's father, Terah. I would never do anything like that. And even those of you who are your own gods, a fool says in his heart, there is no God. A fool, an idiot, says in his heart, there is no Elohim, there is no Christ, there is no Yahuwah. See, you all think you're smart the opposite way around, but yet you're so foolish. When Abraham heard the words, when he heard this foolishness, I laughed in my mind. He didn't laugh to his father, honor thy mother and father. But he laughed in his mind, and I groaned in the bitterness and the anger of my soul. See, that's what happens. I get angry with you all because you all don't comprehend. You don't understand. And you won't, because you're going to take your heart and you're going to harden it. And you're going to say, never, nigga. I believe what I believe. Leave me alone. How this is a figment of a body made by him, Terah, an aid for my father? Or can he have subordinated his body to his soul to a spirit, and the spirit to stupidity and ignorance? And in other words, can he be so disobedient? His body and soul, his soul to his spirit, and his spirit to stupidity and ignorance. And I said, it is only proper to endure evil, that I may throw my mind to purity, and I will expose my thoughts clearly to him. So now Abraham has said, I'm going to tell my father how I feel. I'm going to say it respectfully, but I'm about to let him have it. I have to. I can't hold back no more. And he says, behold, and I answered and said, Father Terah, whichever of these gods you extol, you exalt, you err in your thought. Behold, the gods of my brother, because his brother, his father's brother, Abraham's brother, Nahor, was also an idolater. And he said, behold, the gods of my brother standing in the holy sanctuary are more venerable than yours. So in other words, he's saying, listen, Father, the gods in my brother's sanctuary deserve more respect than your gods. For behold, Zacchaeus was one of his brother's gods' name. My brother's Namor's god is more venerable than your god, Merumath, because he is made of gold, valued by men. So at least he's made of gold. And if he grows old with time, he will be remolded. You can melt gold down. Whereas Merumath, if he is changed or broken, will he not be renewed because he is stone? What about Loev, the god of the other god, who stands with Zoachas? So he's just talking, this is our brother's gods now. For he is more vulnerable than the god Barasat, the one that fell in the fire so you can cook, so your food can get cooked. He is carved from wood and forged from silver, because he too is a term of comparison, being valued by men, silver, according to external experience. But Barasat, your god, when he was still not carved, rooted in the earth, being great and wondrous, with branches and flowers and praise. In other words, he's saying he came from a tree. As a tree is greater than your God, it was greater in the form of a tree. The trees deserve more praise than many of your gods. And he's going to say, you made him with an axe, and by your skill he was made a god, and behold, he was already dried up, and his fatness has perished. He fell from the height to the earth. He came from the greatness to the smallness, and the appearance of his face wasted away. And he himself was burned up by the fire, and he became ashes, and is no more. It's talking about Beresat. And you say, let me make another, and tomorrow he will make my food for me? But in perishing, he left himself no strength for his own destruction. He couldn't even save himself. How can it be your God and he cannot save himself? Chapter 7. Then I say, the fire, now the word here is venerable. I'm going to use worthy, more worthy of praise. Then Abraham says, the fire is more worthy of praise in formation, for even the unsubdued are subdued in it. In other words, fire can destroy anything. And it mocks that which perishes easily by means of it burning. So in other words, the fire mocks with anything that it can destroy, as Abraham is saying. So the fire is more worthy of praise than your gods. But neither it venerable, for it is subject to the waters. So in other words, the fire is subject to the waters. But rather the waters are more powerful, more worthy of praise than the fire, because they overcome fire and sweeten the earth, meaning it makes everything grow and with fruits. But I will not call them God either. So in other words, now Abraham is saying, I will not neither call fire nor water gods. For the waters subside under the earth, are subject to it. There's water beneath the earth. Now, I told you this before. It's in the so-called the original scriptures. It's in the Lost Scrolls, and it's in the book of Enoch. There's a body of water. Now, Earth is 70% water. This planet. But the water that's on this planet comes from a fountain. It doesn't originate here on this planet. There's a fountain in the deep there's another body of water that is far greater than the body of water on this planet. And you look up and you see that the sky is blue even at night.